Meghan Markle's best friend, who set her up with Prince Harry, has vanished. Whatever happened to Meghan's best friend Marcus Anderson? The tall, handsome Canadian was third wheel in the early days of her romance with Prince Harry, and he was front and center at their 2018.
Something about this story never quite added up, and now a name from inside one of the most secretive elite clubs in the world is suddenly forcing people to look again at the past of Meghan Markle. Not the royal fairy tale version the world was told, but the shadowy network that surrounded her long before the royal spotlight ever appeared. Because behind glamorous photos, private parties, and quiet introductions inside the elite world of Soho House, one man's presence keeps resurfacing again and again, and the deeper people dig, the stranger the pattern begins to look. Something shocking just came out from inside the world of Soho House. The man behind the empire, Nick Jones, the powerful figure who built one of the most exclusive private club networks on the planet, suddenly has people looking much closer at Meghan Markle's past connections. And the moment investigators and online sleuths began reviewing old photos and social events, one name kept appearing beside her like a constant shadow. Marcus Anderson. Not just a friend, not just someone in the same social circle, but the man insiders often describe as the gatekeeper of Soho House, the quiet operator who controls access to the most private rooms, the most exclusive guest lists, and the powerful people moving inside those elite spaces. And here is where the story begins to feel far less like coincidence, because Marcus Anderson is also widely known as the man who introduced Meghan Markle to Prince Harry. But when observers began digging into the timeline, they noticed something far more intriguing than a simple introduction. At Soho House events, fashion weeks, private gatherings, industry parties, and even casual outings across multiple countries, Marcus Anderson is almost always right there beside Meghan. Not occasionally, constantly. And when people started lining up those appearances across years of photographs, something even more interesting emerged. A pattern so consistent it became impossible to ignore.
So the whole time we're thinking that that's her husband, Jack Brooksbank. It turns out, guess who that mystery man was the whole time?
Was it Meghan's guy?
It was Marcus Anderson.
Marcus Anderson, yeah.
Why is she having dinner with Marcus Anderson, and why is he then going home with Meghan and Harry?
Now the internet is putting those pieces together in a way it never quite did before. Because when people examined the photos from Soho House events closely, they noticed a detail that surprised many royal watchers. Meghan Markle almost never appears alone inside those spaces. Every single time cameras capture her at those gatherings, Marcus Anderson appears right beside her. The same man seen near early industry parties. The same man present around major life moments. The same man who eventually helped arrange the blind date with Prince Harry. And that discovery triggered a wave of questions spreading rapidly across social media. What exactly was happening inside those Soho House circles before Meghan Markle ever stepped onto the royal stage? Because understanding that question requires understanding what Soho House actually is. This is not a trendy nightclub where anyone can buy a ticket and walk inside. Soho House is one of the most exclusive private membership networks in the world. Locations stretch across London, New York, Toronto, Los Angeles, and other powerful global cities where wealth, media, politics, and celebrity quietly intersect. Getting inside isn't simple. Membership requires sponsorship, approval, and often the backing of someone with serious influence already inside the system. And inside that system, few figures hold more influence than Marcus Anderson.
Actually attended the garden party and overheard something Meghan said to Harry. So after about 15 minutes talking to guests and being charming, Meghan turned to Harry, and I quote from Lady C's book, "Harry, this is really boring."
Marcus Anderson serves as the global membership director within Soho House, and his rise inside the organization reads like something straight out of a power networking blueprint. Years ago, he began working as a waiter inside the club, but slowly, carefully, he climbed the ranks, eventually becoming one of the most trusted insiders of Soho House founder Nick Jones. Today, he is widely described as one of the most influential people inside the membership network, the man who quietly helped shape the guest lists for elite celebrity gatherings and high-profile private events. Nick Jones originally founded Soho House back in 1995 and transformed it into a billion-dollar global brand built on one very specific principle: privacy. In interviews, Jones has explained that the club tries to avoid giving membership to individuals who attract heavy paparazzi attention or constant media chaos. In other words, people who bring too much spotlight are often turned away, which leads to a question many observers keep asking online. If Soho House is so selective about publicity, how did Meghan Markle gain such easy access to these clubs around the world during the early years of her career? At that time, she was known mainly for her role on the TV series Suits and reportedly earning around $50,000 per episode. A respectable acting career, certainly, but not the level of global celebrity that normally glides effortlessly through one of the most exclusive private membership networks on earth. Yet photographs from those years show her attending events, social gatherings, and industry parties across multiple Soho House locations. And every time people examine those photos, the same name appears beside her again: Marcus Anderson, the gatekeeper, the connector, the man who controlled access to the rooms where power quietly circulates. And that relationship alone raises eyebrows, because in elite social networks, proximity to someone who controls invitations can completely transform the opportunities around you. Suddenly doors open, introductions happen, conversations occur in rooms most people never even see. And then there are the photographs themselves, images that continue resurfacing online again and again. Not distant red carpet poses, not stiff publicity photos, but candid moments that seem unusually close for what some people describe as just friendship. One photo from December 2014 shows Meghan holding a large glass of wine beside Marcus Anderson during a gathering. Her arm appears wrapped around his back as the two lean toward each other in conversation. Moments like that are exactly why these images continue circulating across social media today, because each resurfaced photograph adds another piece to the puzzle. Another moment where Marcus Anderson appears at Meghan Markle's side long before the world ever heard her name connected to Prince Harry. And then comes a moment that really made people stop and think: the June 2016 Toronto Gala, just weeks before Meghan Markle would reportedly meet Prince Harry for the first time. The photos from that night show Marcus Anderson in a sharp blue tuxedo standing closely beside Meghan in a sleek black dress, his arm wrapped firmly around her waist, the two posing together with a relaxed familiarity that instantly grabbed attention when the images resurfaced years later. And the timing? That is what truly fuels the speculation, because only weeks later, Marcus Anderson would arrange the blind date that introduced Meghan Markle to Prince Harry, a meeting that would eventually change the course of the British royal story forever. And yet, when people look back at that moment today, they notice something curious. The man standing closest to Meghan in the weeks before that historic introduction was the very same man responsible for making the introduction happen. And once people begin noticing that pattern, the questions only get louder. The moment people started connecting those timelines, the entire story surrounding Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the powerful network behind Soho House suddenly began to look less like coincidence and more like a carefully connected web of influence. Because when investigators and royal watchers continued digging through photos, events, and appearances, they found something that made the conversation even louder. Marcus Anderson never disappeared. In fact, he kept appearing again and again and again, not only before Meghan met Prince Harry, but after, years after, and sometimes at moments that made people stop mid-scroll and stare at the images twice. One of the most widely discussed examples happened during the Invictus Games in Toronto in September 2017. Cameras inside the arena captured a moment that many observers quickly replayed and analyzed. Meghan Markle was seated in the crowd, and right beside her sat Marcus Anderson. Their seats were close enough that their knees nearly touched in the cramped row. Meghan appeared smiling warmly toward Marcus while Prince Harry sat nearby, focused toward the arena floor. To many viewers, it looked like a casual moment, but to those already studying the timeline, it felt like another clue, because Marcus Anderson was not just some passing acquaintance in the crowd. He had already been identified as the person who helped introduce Meghan to Prince Harry in the first place. And yet there he was again, still present, still close, still quietly orbiting some of the most important moments in Meghan Markle's rise into global fame. Then came another moment that reignited the discussion years later. October 2025, Paris Fashion Week. Photos suddenly began circulating across social media showing Meghan Markle walking through the streets of Paris with Marcus Anderson. But what grabbed attention wasn't simply that they were together. It was the way they were walking. Not distant acquaintances, not a large group outing. They were holding hands while walking through the city. Relaxed, comfortable, familiar. And once again, the internet did what it always does. It started asking questions. But that wasn't the only appearance that raised eyebrows that year. Earlier in June 2025, Meghan Markle celebrated the 4th birthday of of her daughter during a family trip to Disneyland. Family photos from the outing were later shared online. At first glance, they looked like typical celebration pictures. But careful viewers noticed something interesting hidden within one image. Marcus Anderson was present again. Only this time, his face had been covered with a heart emoji before the photo was shared publicly. That tiny detail ignited another wave of speculation. Why hide the identity of someone who had already appeared publicly in so many moments? Why conceal the face of someone described as a longtime friend? And as observers studied the timeline further, they discovered another small detail that quietly explained something many people had overlooked. Inside Soho House clubs, guests are not allowed to wander freely. According to the club's policy, visitors must remain with the member who invited them, which means that if Meghan Markle appeared inside those private Soho House gatherings, she would have been attending as someone's guest. And the person most often seen beside her in those photos? Marcus Anderson, the very man who helped control access to the membership network. That detail alone has fueled endless discussion across online communities studying Meghan's early years, because access to those rooms was never just about parties. It was about networks. Inside Soho House, influential figures from media, business, fashion, technology, and entertainment gather away from cameras. Deals are discussed. Partnerships form. Introductions happen quietly over dinners and drinks. It is a networking ecosystem built specifically for powerful connections. And many observers believe that network played a crucial role in shaping Meghan Markle's path. Because before meeting Prince Harry, Meghan was building her career as an actress on the legal drama Suits. She had recognition. She had ambition. But she was still working her way into the highest global social circles. Then suddenly something changed. Her appearances inside Soho House circles began increasing. She started attending exclusive events across multiple cities. She appeared around influential figures connected to those networks. Inside those Soho House spaces, Meghan crossed paths with several influential figures connected to the network. Billionaire investor Ron Burkle, fashion designer Misha Nonu, who later became one of Meghan's close friends, stylist Jessica Mulroney, deeply connected within Toronto's elite social circles. Even tennis champion Serena Williams, who formed a friendship with Meghan during those years. And when people trace those overlapping social circles backward, one name appears repeatedly near the center of that web: Marcus Anderson. As a senior figure within Soho House, he stood at the intersection of celebrities, investors, creatives, and rising social figures. That position made him uniquely powerful behind the scenes. And perhaps that is why the connection between him and Meghan Markle continues to attract so much attention today. Because even after the royal wedding, even after the move to California, even after the couple stepped away from official royal duties, Marcus Anderson never fully disappeared from the picture. Photos continue to surface. Events continue to show the same pattern. And that persistent presence is what keeps observers debating the biggest question of all. Was Marcus Anderson simply a loyal longtime friend? Or was he something far more important in Meghan Markle's extraordinary rise from television actress to global royal figure? The truth may remain hidden behind the private walls of Soho House, a network built on discretion, a club where conversations stay inside the room. But the photos remain, the timeline remains, and the questions surrounding those connections continue growing louder every year. Because when powerful networks operate quietly behind the scenes, the real story often hides in the patterns people only notice years later. Only notice years later. Only notice years later. Only notice.